Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. We've got big severe storms looks to unfold later on this evening, as well as a major snowstorm heading into next week. So let's take a look at the overall setup. This morning, we're still dealing with that very dynamic cold core system down here in Southern California that brought all the heavier snows into the mountain regions and all the heavier rains along the coast. But out ahead of it in the southern plains, you're going to be watching this warm front lifting from south to north today, really elevating those temperatures, elevating those dew points, activating the dry line. And as this system will be merging and meeting up with that dry line, we'll have a lot of lift up in the upper levels of the atmosphere, rotating at the surface. And unfortunately, that's going to be setting the stage for some very strong severe storms, if not tornadic storms. They did in fact upgrade this to a moderate risk for severe storms down in the Elk City area, back in the Woodwood area, into the Stillwater area. Those will be movement across into the Oklahoma City, back into Tulsa. These really pretty strong in portions of Kansas, a little bit further south into portions of Texas, down here in portions of the Gainesville area, getting into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They are going to be fighting a little bit stronger capping inversion. That should help limit and weaken the storms as they move across from west to east and be transferring to more of just of a gustier wind threat. But definitely tornadic supercells about 7 o'clock time frame into this evening in portions of far northwest portions of Oklahoma, down here in northwest Texas. So it looks like a several hour event. What we have to be at high alert and look it up to the skies and have the weather radios handy, because we do have a significant risk in place for about a 3 to 4 hour time frame before these push off and become more of a gustier wind, very downburst winds, straight line winds moving across into getting into eastern portions of Oklahoma. Further south, there'll be less of a threat as far as the severe threat, and these, once we get up here into portions of Iowa, won't be severe as we head towards the midnight time frame. But as we move across, heading into tomorrow morning, get it into tomorrow afternoon, we'll have a bona fide low pressure center continue to expand and deepen. You can see the isobar is really tightening up here, indicative of some very strong winds, with unfortunately more ice potentially in portions of Wisconsin as well as into Michigan. And that will continue to move off into the northeast and bring some pretty good snows across the northeast. You can see a blanket of snow where they've been desperately needing to add to these totals because they really haven't had a winter up there. So they are going to be getting some snow in portions of Massachusetts, into Rhode Island, back into Connecticut area, even to New York City. I actually bet they even get about possibly 2 inches of snow in around the New York City area. And speaking of betting, while there was some serious action last week on the gridiron in Arizona, there isn't a shortage of action on the hardwood. I'm teaming up with DraftKings to give all new customers a winning offer. All new customers have to do is sign up for DraftKings using my promo code PALPONDER2023 to put at least $5 on any pregame money line for any basketball game, and you'll receive an additional $150 in bonus bet if your bet wins. Yep, that's right. New customers bet just $5 on any pregame money line for any basketball game, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets deposited in your account if your bet wins. Wondering what you could use $150 in bonus bets on? Try out same game parlays where you can combine multiple bets from one game, like which player might score first and which team will be winning at halftime, for even bigger winnings. If your mobile sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry, you can still get it on the phone with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code PALPONDER2023, bet $5 on any pregame money line for any basketball game, and get $150 bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code PALPONDER2023 only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, so let's take a look at the overall teleconnections. So once we move out of that snowstorm, that initial storm into the northeast, we are going to be looking, as we go into that March timeframe, of all the teleconnections kind of to line up and trending further south. And we'd see a massive plunge in the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. That's also indicative that we could have some colder air in the mid latitudes finally filtering down. We did have, in fact, that sudden stratospheric warming event on the February 16th timeframe, and they usually take several weeks to filter down from the mid latitudes to get down into some of these areas, into Canada, into the United States. And that we're starting to see the first initial hints of that as we get into that first week of March, because a lot of the teleconnections, including the NAO, which is your North American oscillation, that's also turning negative. And that's also going to be indication why they're going to be increasing the snow amounts up there in the Northeast, because they're going to be having these systems slow down. And when they do, they're going to be able to pick up a little bit more moisture, from these systems, and then dump it and then increase the precipitation as well. So they should be adding to these totals. And especially once the next system comes through, that's the one I'm concerned about. Could be the biggest snowstorm of the season, because look at the time frame as we head into the second. We'll start to see some ridging starting to form off the west coast of Alaska and into the Aleutian Islands, as well as into portions of Greenland. That's indicative of that NAO starting to form, and then that will shift the troughs underneath and dig them a little bit further south. We did have a plunge earlier this week on the Southern Oscillation Index, and that indicates the southern jet stream could get a little bit more active, and also indicate this vorticity could dip even far south into Oklahoma, even portions in the North Texas. But it also indicates this could be a coastal hugger as it comes up into the Northeast, once it comes out of the southern plain. So that's what I'm looking at, as this will continue to move out from the March 2nd timeframe and heading into the 3rd. These troughs will really be starting to dig in and move up the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. And I think that's when we'll have our bona fide snowstorm really start to unfold, and really maximizing and deepening by then, and really putting down some healthier amounts, which again, you really haven't had much of a winter there. So this is making up for lost time in a big way. And we've got fairly significant snows on the table, and I'll walk you through for the next couple of weeks, because we got a lot more colder weather on the way for sure. So let's take a look at the overall ensembles of the latest GFS guidance. It does in fact hint that system moving across, dive into portions of Kansas as well as into Oklahoma. It could even clip northern portions of North Texas and East Texas, but especially headed into Missouri and much of Illinois and much of Indiana and Ohio could get some really decent snows out of this system, as this low pressure will continue to move across even as far south as maybe Kentucky into West Virginia area as we get into that March 3rd timeframe. But once it heads off to the coast, we've got a really kind of deepening low pressure center off the Jersey Shore, and that will really wrap around that moisture and maximizing those snow amounts and really elevating those snow totals. The snowfall rates, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches per hour up here into the mid-Atlantic as well as in the Northeast. And this definitely could appear to be your biggest snowstorm of the season that really looks to unfold into that, that 2nd, 3rd, heading into that 4th time frame. Here's the latest update from the GFS, and they've got, obviously this is a little bit more bullish model of all the global models right now, but definitely some pretty healthy amounts looks to unfold across the Northeast. But more conservatively, even the blend is still hinting at some pretty significant snows when you're looking at all the ensembles of all the models out there. Still a really decent heavier snows, blanketed across portions of the mid-Atlantic and heading up into New England by the time we head into that 2nd, 3rd, 4th time frame of the month. But beyond that, like I mentioned, as we get deeper into March, I think really around that 2nd week of March, we'll start to feel the effects of that sudden stratospheric warming event, where we start to get a lot more blocking. We start to see a little bit more positives over the top. That'll set these troughs further and further underneath, and the more they're able to do that, the colder they're going to be able to get and wrap into some of that moisture, especially with that negative NAO. And that will set the stage for at least increased chances for definitely colder weather, if not so snowier weather, in a lot of places that really just haven't seen that much snow so far this season. And the latest update from the Climate Prediction Center is actually highlighting that. This is their latest 3 to 4 week temperature outlook, and it came out yesterday, implying, looking at the ongoing sudden stratospheric warming event could lead to cold outbreaks across the US, and it's already hinting at well below average temperatures, especially starting into that second week of March, but especially as we head into that third week of March. So it looks like plenty of winter is still left on the table. For those that haven't got enough out there, we still got winter still on board, at least for several more weeks, and we'll be tracking this into the days to come. But man, look at some of these ensemble guidance going forward. This is about March the 11th time frame. That's pretty impressive on the ensembles from the European guidance. Look at that. I mean, that's very rare to see something like that, a 30 below average temperature anomalies on an ensemble. So that is some extremely cold stuff there in portions of Nevada, getting into Utah, heading into Wyoming. But yeah, even in the greens areas, that's still 11 to 15 degrees below average temperatures. But even into the blue areas, you're still looking at 5 to 10 degrees below average, and that's on an ensemble, right? It could definitely even be colder than this. So definitely some very chilly air on the way, and it doesn't end there, because if we expand the view and head into that into that third week time frame, say from March the 11th through March the 18th time frame, yeah, I mean, pretty much the entire continental US is below average temperatures. Now, I realize this is March. The overall average temperatures do tend to go up. It's not January, it's not February, right? But it is March. But still, it's on the chilly side, especially for March, and we should have some cold outbreaks. And it could be really seriously cold out here in portions of Nevada going into Utah, especially with indications of those ensembles hitting so far below their temperature anomalies. And even on the European weeklies as well, heading into that 19th and the 26th time frame, this is an overall average temperatures of those 7 days. Still paints a picture of below average temperatures for a good chunk of the US. So again, some of these areas that have been missing out on winter, and especially, you know, it's been a warm winter for a lot of places. We've seen a lot of rapid swings, but overall it's been above average for a good chunk of these areas, especially for the central and eastern 2/3 of the US. And finally, they're going to be getting some, you know, longer term, you know, below average temperatures, especially starting into that second week of March. And it doesn't really end there too, because it looks to continue even maybe in a more modified form, but still having the effects of that sudden stratospheric warming event. The overall look of what may be potentially the latest update from the GFS and the extended, you know, ensemble guidance for the entire month of March on the average front still paints a picture of below average temperatures, if not well below average temperatures, especially for the west and northern portions of the US. So definitely some colder temperatures still on the way and plenty of winter left. But it's also hinting at these areas up here and into the Ohio Valley, into the mid-Atlantic, as well as into the Northeast, will be above average precipitation at the same time where you have below average, you know, temperatures. So that obviously increases the possibility, if you still like snow out there, you still got more chances on the way across these regions. So definitely hints at, you know, above average potentially snow levels, you know, as we go over the entire month of March. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.